Hey friends, and welcome back to the Daily Burke. Today we are talking about how to remember someone's name. Well, actually, we're not talking about that entirely. You see, I wish I had some trick for you, right? Some way to just say their name 3 times and you'll remember it forever, or connect them with an animal and then you'll remember it. That's a real one I have seen on the internet, a real suggestion. The truth is, all of us have struggled with that awkward moment where we're meeting someone for the second or third time and we just can't remember their name. And we feel guilty and we feel awkward and we don't want to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. Can you tell me again? We don't want to insult them. It's an altruistic motive too, right? The truth is, our brains were not wired to remember people's names. Not entirely, right? So your brain was designed at a time where meeting strangers meant assessing whether or not they were a threat. First and foremost, determining a threat. So you remember facial features and expressions. You remember details about affiliations. This is probably why so what do you do is such a common question to ask when we meet someone. We're looking to figure out what are their organizational affiliations. But a name, a couple of syllable symbol that their parents decided to call them when they were first born, that's not really that significant. It's relatively meaningless for assessing whether or not someone is a threat. And so your brain just doesn't filter it in the way that it filters in other details. And that's why you don't remember. So I don't have a trick for you for remembering people's names. What I do have is a trick to sort of naturally avoid the issue. You don't want to offend them by saying that you've forgotten. You don't want to feel awkward because you've forgotten. And so there's a simple trick to sort of pretend like you know their name, or at least avoid having to admit that you've forgotten their name, but keep the conversation natural and flowing. And it's this, quite simply, introduce them to someone else. It works great if you have a buddy that you can warn ahead of time that, hey, this is my trick, right? But even if not, when someone else comes along in that conversation, you just say something as simple as, oh, have you met Jane? And you introduce them to Jane. And if you don't know their name and you didn't in that moment say their name, either Jane will ask or they'll say, oh, hi, Jane, I'm John. Now, of course, if you remember, you would say something natural like, oh, by the way, John, have you met Jane? So the lack of the name would communicate to like your buddy, or in my case, my wife knows this trick and I've been using it often. Right? So it will communicate to them that they need to make sure to ask what the name is. But the truth is, naturally, just in the course of conversation, it will come up if you just simply introduce them. So I don't have a trick for remembering someone's name. I'm sorry, I don't. There just isn't one that works well universally because of how our brains were designed. But what I do have is a trick for avoiding that awkward feeling, for pretending that you've always known their name, or at the very least, from saving them from having to hear that, oh, I was not memorable with this person and they forgot my name. And it's quite simply a trick to fake it by introducing them to someone else. Thanks so much for watching the Daily Burke. Leave a comment. Let me know what you enjoyed about this or other episodes. And speaking of other episodes, make sure you follow or subscribe so that you don't miss what's coming down the pipe and what we have already posted. And in the meantime, we'll see you tomorrow.